Good morning, Sunim. It's good to see you. I have a family-related question today. Um, my mother, who lives alone, would like to sell her home and move to a new house. However, she has a lot of difficulty making decisions and she's fearful of change. And so as a result, she suffers from anxiety. My sister has been the main person helping my mother to look for a new home, but because of my mother's fear of making a decision, she's been unable to choose somewhere. And my sister is also reluctant to make a decision because she doesn't want to be blamed if my mother regrets her choice. This situation has been dragging on for a long time now, and my mother has lost a few opportunities to sell her house because the buyers don't want to wait for her. So my question is, how can I help my mother overcome her fear so that she can move forward and hopefully live the remainder of her life comfortably? Thank you very much.
어떻게 보면 작은 일인데 이 문제를 해결하기는 매우 어려운 일입니다.
In a way, this is a small problem, but at the same time, it's a very difficult problem to resolve.
어쩌면 기후위기 극복하는 것보다 더 어려울지도 모르겠습니다.
And in a way, actually, it's a more difficult problem to solve than climate change.
그러나 이 사건은 작은 사건이기 때문에 오히려 첫 번째 선택은요, 관여하지 않는 겁니다.
But since this is a kind of an individual, it's a family problem, looking at that from that perspective, the first choice you have, first option you have is not interfere.
네, 어디 여행 갔다가 한 5년 있다가 오면 이렇든 저렇든 해결이 돼 있을 겁니다.
So, example, if you go away for 5 years to a foreign country and be out of sight and out of mind, and you come back, the situation would have resolved itself.
그래서 첫 번째는 관여하지 않는 겁니다.
So the first choice you have is, not get involved.
네, 그것이 어떤 선택으로 결론이 나든 사실은 그렇게 중요한 문제도 아닙니다.
Because in a way, so whatever choice happens to be made, or whatever option your mother happens to take, at the end of the day, it's not that crucial.
두 번째 이제 내가 그래도 관여를 해야 된다고 생각한다면 비난받을 각오를 해야 합니다.
But second option is that if you do decide to get involved, then you must be ready for criticism.
일단은 어머니가 결정을 하겠다면 그냥 어머니가 결정할 때까지 기다려야 합니다.
So if your mother wants to make that decision for herself, then you have to wait for her decision.
조언을 요청하면 조언을 해야 합니다.
If she asks for advice, then you give her advice.
그러나 그 조언을 듣지 않을 확률이 높습니다.
But there's a high probability that she's not going to listen to your advice.
그래도 결정은 어머니가 하는 거니까 뭐 조언이 들어지든 받아들여지든 안 받아들여지든 전혀 관여하지 않아야 합니다.
But that's okay because ultimately it's her decision. So whether she takes your advice or not, it's really up to her.
몇 번이나 조언했는데 받아들이지도 않을 거면 왜 묻느냐 이렇게 관점을 가지면 또 스트레스를 받습니다.
But if you get angry just because she asks a lot of advice, then you keep giving her advice, but she doesn't listen to your advice, that's not the right perspective to take.
10번 물으면 10번 대답하면 됩니다.
And she asks for your advice 10 times, then you just give her the advice 10 times.
그러나 결정권은 어머니에게 있기 때문에 그것에 이 받아들여지고 안 받아들여지고를 신경 쓰지 않아야 합니다.
But then again, she's the decision authority on this, whether to take your advice or not. So once you give your advice, that's where it stops.
어머니의 괴로움을 내가 해결해 주겠다 이런 관점을 가지면 나까지 괴로움이 생겨납니다.
But if you're approaching this problem from the perspective that you want to solve your mother's problems for her, You want to solve your mother's potential suffering for her. That will
괴로움은
just cause suffering to you as well.
괴로움은 어머니에게 머물고 나에게는 전염되지 않아야 합니다.
Because that suffering must be localized to your mother. You don't want it to infect you as well with this suffering.
두 번째는 어머니가 결정을 못 하시면 결정권을 저한테 넘겨주십시오라고 요청해 봐야 합니다.
Then again, you can always ask her, if you have trouble deciding, Mom, would you let me decide for you?
그래서 내가 결정권을 갖는다면 내가 결정을 해버리면 됩니다.
And if she gives you the authority to decide for her, then go ahead and decide.
그런데 결정권을 줬다가 가져갔다가 하더라도 막 그것에 그런 결정권도 어머니에게 있다 해서 내가 거기에 집착하지 말아야 합니다.
But if she decides to let you decide for her, but then takes away the decision authority, then gives it back to you, then takes it away and gives it back to you. Even those cycles, just keep in mind that it's ultimately her decision, so that you don't suffer because of that.
우리가 볼 때는 답답한 일이지만은 어머니 입장에서는 지금 어떤 결정을 하기가 어렵습니다.
So from our perspective, this situation is frustrating. However, from your mom's perspective, it's a very difficult situation to decide.
이 집에 살자니 수리를 하는 어려움이 있습니다.
If she was at a place, there are other things that with maintenance and others that she has to deal with.
팔고 이사를 가자니 새 집을 구하는 결정이 어렵습니다.
Then she wants to sell and find a new place, but finding a new place is also difficult.
또 이사도 가야 하고요.
Moving is a difficult chore.
또 그 집에 또 어떤 문제가 있을지도 아직 알 수가 없고.
And there's uncertainty about any future in the future house.
또 살던 곳을 옮기는 데 따르는 또 어려움도 있고요.
There are a lot of difficulties from moving one place to another.
그래서 이러지도 못하고 저러지도 못하는 겁니다.
That's why she has trouble deciding because she can't choose this or that.
이것은 근본적으로는 어머니의 심리 불안에 있습니다.
And ultimately, this boils down to kind of a uncertainty, anxiety on your mother's behalf.
그것을 내가 도와줄 방법은 없습니다.
And there's no way for you to actually influence that.
도와줄 수 있다면 첫째는 병원에 함께 가는 것입니다.
But if you want to just assist or help her work through this herself, first you may take her to a doctor's.
의사가 봤을 때 그 마음의 불안이 심하다고 하면 안정제 같은 것을 조금 먹으면 훨씬 낫습니다.
And if this truly becomes at a state of anxiety that needs some kind of medical intervention, then your doctor can provide that.
두 번째는 어디 명상센터에 가서 명상을 하는 겁니다.
And second, you can take her to a meditation center, allow her to be, quiet within herself.
그것도 안 되면 아시아적 전통적인 방법이 있습니다.
And if those two doesn't help, then you can choose the traditional Asian.
즉 점을 보는 것입니다.
Go to a fortune teller.
그래서 점쟁이가 가지 마라 하면 안 가는 걸로 확실히 마음의 안정이 됩니다.
And then allow the fortune teller to tell her what to do. If the fortune teller says you shouldn't go to a new place, then she feels good about it.
네, 가라 하면 가는 걸로 결정을 쉽게 낼 수 있습니다.
The fortune teller says you need to go to a new place, then she feels good making that decision.
어쩌면 어머니 같은 경우는 이 방법이 더 쉬울지 모르겠습니다.
Maybe in your mother's situation, that path might be the easiest.
이것을 미신이다 이렇게 생각하면 안 되고 결정을 잘 못하는 사람을 도와주는 방법입니다.
So in that sense, you shouldn't consider fortune telling as a superstition. It's a way to assist people into making decisions.
네, 본인의 얘기 질문이 있으면 더 하세요.
So what do you think? Any reactions to that?
Last year I spent 3 months in the with her to try and help her with this, and it wasn't very successful for some of the reasons that you mentioned. So I think that I'll talk to her and see if she's willing to hand over the responsibility for the decision making to me, and then I can travel back to the UK and maybe spend some time there again and see if there's a way to resolve the situation.
네, 결정권을 주신다면 자기가 자기 생각대로 결정을 해버리면 됩니다. 그러면 대신에 어머니가 네가 결정을 잘못했다 하는 이런 비난을 계속 들을 각오를 해야 됩니다. 괜찮습니다. 그 기꺼이 받으면 됩니다.
So if she does decide to give you the decision authority, then you can decide for her on her behalf. Having said that, you have to be ready to deal with the criticism that comes with whatever decision you have made. But as long as you are willing to deal with that, then that's fine.
그 다음에 결정권을 주지 않는다면 그냥 기다려보는 수밖에 없습니다.
But if she does not give you the decision authority, then you have no choice but to wait.
그래서는 뭐 이렇게 점 보는 거 없습니까?
But is there any kind of fortune telling?
I don't know, actually. I guess there might be. It's possible, but I'm not sure. I haven't lived there for so long that I wouldn't know where to look for that kind of thing.
아니, 어머니가 믿는 거라야 됩니다. 만약에 캐톨릭 신자라면 신부님이나 이런 데서 고해성사를 하면서 이런 고민을 얘기하면 신부님이 도와줄지도 모릅니다.
It's got to be kind of a tradition that the faith tradition your mother is already part of or believes in. So if she's a Catholic, for example, then part of her confessional with a priest, might help her make a decision one way or another.
She's actually recently become interested in Buddhism, maybe because of me. And I've tried to encourage her to look at Jungto Society, but she has social anxiety. So she's reluctant to engage with people or with groups that she doesn't already know.
어머니의 그런 마음 상태로는 정토회 같은 게 맞지 않습니다. 전통적인 종교가 더 맞습니다.
Right. If she suffers from that kind of social anxiety, then the way Jungto functions is probably not right for her at this time. The more of a traditional kind of worship tradition is probably better.
질문자가 생각할 때는 이사를 가는 게 좋다고 생각해요. 수리하는 게 좋다고 생각해요.
But according to you, what you think, right, for your mother, you think it's better for her to stay at her place and kind of deal with the maintenance on her life there, or is it better for your mother to go to a new place?
In my opinion, the reason she wants to move is because the house that she's living in needs renovation. So I think that she would be more comfortable and have an easier life if she moved to a new house, which was ready to live in and didn't need any work immediately. But every time she finds a house that looks, in my opinion, is suitable, she gets cold feet and she gets afraid, and then she runs away from making a commitment.
내가 9월 초에 가니까 계신다면 한번 모시고 오세요. 제가 점을 쳐서 결정을 내려드릴게요.
So I'll be in the first part of September, early September. So if you happen to be there, why don't you bring her to see me, and I'll act as a fortune teller and facilitate her decision.
네, 결론적으로 말씀드리면 어머니 결정하시기 어려우니까 제가 결정하겠습니다 하고 자기가 결정을 내려주는 방법, 그리고 어머니께서 결정권을 넘겨주지 않으면 조금 답답하겠지만은 그냥 두고 기다리는 게 좋지 않나 생각합니다.
So in conclusion, there's only two choices, right? You can ask her to give that decision authority to you, and then you can decide on her behalf and be ready to take on any criticism that comes thereof. Or if she doesn't want to do that, then you have no choice but to wait for her to make a decision. And it could be frustrating, but that's the choices you have.
옆에서 볼 때는 간단하게 결정하면 될 것 같지만은 본인에게는 매우 어려운 일입니다.
But to realizing that, that the decision itself seems simple looking from the outside in, but from her, it's a very difficult decision, a very complex decision.
내가 어머니가 결정하기 어렵다는 것을 이해하면 어머니가 그렇게 왔다 갔다 하더라도 내가 편안합니다.
So if you fully understand the difficulty of that decision from her perspective, then it will bring you a peace of mind, understanding that she's going through a lot of tribulations, right? Trying to make the right decision for herself.
네, 저 같으면 이렇게 할 것 같습니다. 이사를 가겠다 그러면 네, 그렇게 합시다 하고 이튿날 안 가겠다 하면 네, 잘하셨습니다 이러고 다시 가야 되겠다 하면 아이고 더 잘하셨습니다 이렇게 그냥 어머니 뜻대로 이렇게 저렇게 따라하는 겁니다. 그것은 무책임한 것이 아니라 그것이 현재 어머니와의 관계를 내가 스트레스 없이 해결하는 방법이라는 거예요.
So if I were you, this is what I would do. If one day she says, I want to move, you say, that's a great idea. Perfect decision. And the next day she changes her mind, says, I want to stay. You go, that's a great idea. Perfect decision. And the next day she wants to move again. Then you go, perfect. That's a fantastic idea. I'll help you move. So that's not being irresponsible. It's for you kind of providing support, encouragement, and maintaining that line of communication open as your mother naturally kind of gravitates towards a decision.
특히 노인을 모시는 분들, 노인과의 관계에서는 노인의 생각에 맞추는 것이 해결책이다 이렇게 봅니다.
Especially in an elderly care situation, it's really important for us to focus on the perspective and the needs of the elderly and see the world from their perspective.
더 얘기 있으면 하세요.
Do you have any further follow-up?
No, thank you. Not quite yet. Perhaps there'll be a follow-up. I'll see if that's possible. Thank you.
그러면 질문자 소감을 듣겠습니다.
Then let's go back to our original questioners and see what they think. So let's go back to first.
Thank you, Sunim. As I said before, I think I need to have another conversation with my mother and see if she's willing to hand over the decision-making responsibilities to someone else, and if she will commit to the decision to let somebody else decide, which has been a problem before. It's been going on for a long time, and I'm not very optimistic, but I'm hoping that there's going to be a way to resolve the situation.